right, hello everyone. Today we have a algebra question about solutions. Suppose a solution that is 5% acid is added to 20 milliliters of a solution that is 40% acid to make a solution that is 35% acid. How much of the solution that is 5% should be added to the 40% solution? All right, so let me kind of do a little drawing here. And, the drawing is not necessary at all, but sometimes it does kind of help us to see what's going on. So let's say you have this solution that is 5% acid. And the question here is how much of this is going to be added to the 20 milliliters that is 40% to make 35. So just think of this as a little like a flask or whatever, a jar. And you would add X milliliters here. And what we're told is that 5% of those X milliliters is going to be acid. So that's 5% here. And we're going to be adding it to the amount. And let's just say this is like in a flask or whatever. This is 20 milliliters. And then 40% of that is acid. So 40%. And finally, we're going to put these together. So we're adding them, and they're going to just imagine you're going to put this in here, or they both go together in like this larger container. I don't know, that helps out. Well, how much would that make? Well, if you have X milliliters of something, and then you're going to add it to 20, you're putting those together, so you have X plus 20 milliliters of this liquid, okay? And 35% of that would be acid, so 35%, excuse me. All right, so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to come up with an equation. And these drawings often kind of help us to do that. So if I were to say there's a certain amount of solution here, a certain amount of acid that's here and another amount of acid here, those amounts of acid need to be equal to the amount of acid here, okay? Well, how much acid would I first have in my 5% solution? Well, if you tell me 5% of the amount is acid, well, the way to express that is 0.05x. Okay. On the other hand, for the 20 milliliters, if you're telling me 40%, it's going to be 0.4 times 20. So it's the percentage times the total amount that gives you the total amount of acid, okay? And yeah, we can think of the words like 40% of. The word of in math, implies multiplication. So amount of acid. And then this has to equal the amount of acid in your container, which would be 35% of the amount of liquid, X plus 20. So we'd have this equation right here, and often that is the case when you're working with these solution problems where you have an acid or some other type of type of liquid. You take the amount of the liquid you're looking for, in this case this acid, from each of the things that you're putting together, and that has to equal the amount of acid in your or whatever solution you have in your third container. So in our case, we would have this equation, 0.05x plus 0.4 times 20 plus, or equals x plus 20 times 0.35, okay? And this would come down to solving this equation. 0.4 times 20 is 8. Here I have to distribute, this would be a 0.35x. And then 20 times 0.35, that's going to give you a 7. So total you would have 1. I'll subtract the 7 over, and I'll subtract the 0.05x from the 0.35x, move that over to the other side, and you get 0.3x. So x would equal 1 over 0.3. Or, so how do I simplify this? You can use long division, that's one thing you can do. You could also use the fact that if you multiply this by 10, that removes the decimal place from that 0.3. But you can't just multiply that 10 on the bottom, because that changes the problem. You can do that to the top and things balance themselves out. So 10 over 3x, or if you prefer as a mixed number, 3 goes into 10 3 times with 1/3 left. So 3 1/3 milliliters of 5% solution is what you'd have. So once again, it comes down to figuring the amount of acids in each container that you're working with, and adding those together to make the amount when you put them together. Okay, so that's how we went and got this equation up here. All right, well, thank you for your time. Hope this helps.